Imagine receiving a letter from the person who murdered your child. Not just any letter, but one that describes exactly how they died, in horrifying, unimaginable detail. This is the true story of Albert Fish, the Grey Man, the Brooklyn Vampire, the Werewolf of Wysteria. A real-life monster who didn't just kill, he wrote letters to the families of his victims to make them suffer all over again. Albert Fish was born in 1870 in Washington, D.C., into a life already surrounded by madness. His family had a history of severe mental illness. By age 12, Fish was living in an orphanage, where the beatings weren't punishment, they were entertainment. He began to enjoy the pain. He said the feeling of the whip was like electricity through his body. That's where it started, a mind that twisted pain into pleasure. And soon, that pleasure turned into hunger. As he grew older, Albert Fish became obsessed with violence. He began hurting animals, self-harming, and finding victims, mostly children. He called it the taste of sin. By the 1920s, Fish was living in New York, posing as a gentle old man, a painter, a handyman, even a babysitter. But inside, he was fighting dark voices, ones he claimed were from God, and those voices told him to kill. In 1928, Fish met the Budd family. They were poor but kind, a hard-working family trying to make ends meet. Fish promised their son a job on a farm. But when he arrived, he met their 10-year-old daughter, Grace. He smiled kindly and said, "Why don't I take Grace with me to my niece's birthday party?" The Budds, trusting this frail old man, agreed. Grace never came home. For 6 long years, the Budd family heard nothing. Then, in 1934, they received a letter. It was from Albert Fish. He wrote that years before, he'd read a story about a family stranded in China who resorted to cannibalism. He said the idea fascinated. Then, in that same letter, he described, in horrifying detail, how he lured Grace, killed her, and cooked and ate parts of her body. He ended the letter by writing, "She died a virgin." The words were so disturbing that police officers who read it were physically sick. That letter, that unspeakable confession, is what finally led them to Albert Fish. The police traced the letter's envelope to the New York Private Chauffeurs Association. Inside one of their rooms, they found him. Albert Fish was calm. He admitted everything, dozens of murders, tortures, and cannibalism. But Grace's story was his masterpiece of horror. In 1936, he was sentenced to death by electric chair. As they strapped him in, he reportedly smiled. When asked if he had any last words, he said, "I don't even know why I'm here." The letter to Grace Budd's mother still exists, locked away, too disturbing to publish in full. To this day, experts debate whether Fish was driven by insanity, or if he was pure, deliberate evil. Some say he was possessed. Others say he was what happens when humanity loses its soul. Whatever he was, he made sure the world would never forget his words. If you ever find a letter with no return address, written in shaking hands and smelling faintly of iron, maybe it's just old paper. Or maybe something or someone still wants to be remembered.